The alien queen was shocked when her human husband revealed his real strength. From her throne, Queen Valera observed the city below, her sharp eyes scanning the bustling streets. The people moved like a river, each carrying their tasks with precision, their loyalty to the empire clear in every gesture. Valera's advisors bowed before her, their voices low and urgent. "Your Majesty," one said, "the human ambassador has arrived in orbit. His fleet is waiting your decision." Valera turned her eyes toward the viewport, where a small cluster of human ships floated gracefully against the endless black of space. Unlike the alien fleets, which were enormous and heavily armed, the human vessels were modest in size. They were sleek, streamlined, and quiet. There was no display of arrogance, no attempt to overwhelm with power, just ships simple, functional, efficient. Her advisors whispered among themselves. "Humans are fragile, their fleets will crumble if tested," one said. Another added, "Yet they have survived against odds we cannot imagine." Valera said nothing. She had been warned about humans for years. They were unpredictable, clever, and persistent, but more than that, they were small. To an alien eye, their physical strength was almost laughable. Their technology was primitive compared to the sprawling armadas of the galaxy's greatest powers. And yet, here they were, bold enough to sail into the heart of her empire. The marriage had been her choice, but not entirely hers. To prevent war, the human ambassador, Jaren, had been offered her hand in a political union. It was meant to secure peace, nothing more. She was to be his queen in title only, and he was to be a loyal ally. When Jaren first appeared before her, Valera had expected awkwardness, weakness, and fear. Instead, he stood tall, shoulders straight, head held high. His eyes were calm, unafraid, and strangely curious. "Your Majesty," he said, bowing slightly. His voice was soft, but it carried a quiet authority that made Valera's advisors straighten instantly. "I am honored to be in your presence." Valera raised an eyebrow. "You understand your role, human?" she asked. "This marriage is political, it is not personal." "I understand," Jaren replied, his lips curved into a faint smile. "But I also understand that alliances work best when there is mutual respect. I'm here to serve the peace, not merely the ceremony." Valera paused. She had expected arrogance or at least hesitation. But this human spoke with a calm clarity that was unusual even among her own people. For a moment she studied him closely. He did not fidget. He did not bow too low or speak too loud. He was quiet but steady, respectful yet confident. Her advisors exchanged uneasy glances. One whispered, "He is too calm, too ordinary. Is this weakness?" Valera shook her head slightly. "Perhaps," she said aloud, "we shall see." The first weeks of their marriage were strange and formal. Jaren followed protocol without question. He learned her customs quickly, asking questions with genuine curiosity rather than mockery or judgment. He moved among the alien courtiers with ease, never failing to show politeness. Yet, despite his composure, Valera could not ignore the subtle ways he challenged her. He questioned her decisions, not in defiance but in a manner that made her think. One morning during a strategy meeting, he asked, "Your fleet is strong, but are its supply lines secure? If an enemy cuts them, what is your next move?" Valera had expected praise, not inquiry. She frowned. "Our generals have planned for all contingencies." "Plans are only as strong as the assumptions behind them," Jaren replied calmly. "The enemy may not act as expected. Shouldn't we prepare for what we cannot predict?" Her advisors muttered among themselves, clearly irritated. Valera, however, felt a spark of curiosity. Humans were strange creatures. They did not rely solely on strength. They calculated, adapted, and endured. That kind of intelligence could be dangerous or invaluable. Days turned into weeks. Jaren continued to surprise her. He visited the armories not to admire weapons but to study how they were used. He observed soldiers in training, asking questions about stamina, coordination, and morale. He seemed less interested in the size of their weapons than in how their strength was applied. One evening, Valera watched him quietly from her balcony as he walked among the gardens. The twin suns dipped lower, casting long shadows across the alien flora. He paused, touching the leaves of a luminescent plant. "Your gardens are beautiful," he said softly. "I have seen many worlds, but few take care like this." Valera felt an unexpected warmth. She had never married for love, yet she could not deny the small admiration growing inside her. Still, she reminded herself, he was a human and humans were weak. They were clever, yes, but not strong enough to face the galaxy's real dangers. The warning came sooner than expected. Sensors detected a fleet approaching from the edge of the neighboring star system. Valera's empire was under threat. The enemy was vast and ruthless, capable of destroying entire planets. Her advisors panicked. "The humans will be crushed," one general said, fear in his voice. "Even our fleet may not hold them back." Valera's hand tightened on the railing. "We must prepare," she said. Then she turned to Jaren. "Your species, what do you think?" Jaren stood tall, scanning the enemy fleet's movement. "They are strong," he said, "but strength alone does not win wars. Preparation, coordination, and patience are stronger." Valera's advisors gasped. They had expected hesitation, not this calm confidence. The first skirmish came at dusk. Alien fleets clashed, and explosions lit the sky like deadly fireworks. The enemy moved fast, striking at weak points with precision. Valera watched from the command tower, her stomach tightening with fear. Ships that had taken months to build were destroyed in minutes. Jaren stood beside her, calm as ever. "Observe," he said quietly. "Do not react yet, let them reveal their pattern." Valera frowned. His advice was strange, almost naive. But there was something about the way he spoke, so steady, that made her follow it. She forced herself to watch. Slowly, she began to see what he meant. The enemy, though powerful, made predictable mistakes. They attacked recklessly, exposing weak points in their formation. By the time the sun fully set, the enemy retreated, damaged and confused. Valera turned to Jaren. "How?" she whispered. "How did we survive?" Jaren smiled faintly. "We did not survive by power. We survived by observation, patience, and using what we had wisely. Your people are strong, but even they can be stronger when guided properly." Valera's mind raced. For the first time, she realized something unsettling. Perhaps humans were not weak. Perhaps their strength was hidden, quiet, and dangerous in its own way. The night was long. Valera could not sleep. She walked among the gardens, thinking about the human she had married. He had revealed no power yet, no sign of physical dominance, and yet she felt a chill of realization. His strength was not in muscles or fleets. It was in his mind, his strategy, his calm in the face of chaos. As dawn approached, Valera made a decision. She would watch, learn, and perhaps even trust this human. If the galaxy underestimated him, so much the better. But if he truly held strength beyond imagination, the consequences could be enormous for friend and foe alike. Jaren joined her in the gardens at first light. He looked at her and said softly, "Do not fear, Valera. Humans do not seek to dominate. We only seek to endure, to protect, and to act when it matters most." Valera studied him, seeing the calm certainty in his eyes. She realized that this quiet human who had seemed ordinary and gentle could very well be the key to her empire's survival. Perhaps he was more than a husband, more than a diplomat. Perhaps he was something the galaxy had never truly seen before. For the first time, the alien queen felt a mixture of respect and fear. She had married a human to secure peace, but she had no idea what she had truly brought into her life. The twin suns rose fully, casting light over Erendor once more. Ships flew above, humans and aliens preparing for what would come. Valera's heart was steady, yet racing. The galaxy was dangerous, the enemy fierce, and the future uncertain. And in the quiet of the morning, she realized one undeniable truth. The human she had married was not what he appeared to be. And soon she would witness the full extent of his real strength. The day after the first skirmish, the capital world of Erendor was tense. Smoke still rose from the orbital outskirts, where the remnants of the enemy fleet lingered in damaged silence. The air in the command tower felt thick with worry. Queen Valera paced the polished floor, her eyes scanning the galaxy through the massive viewport. Her advisors were unsettled. "Your Majesty," one said nervously, "the enemy has regrouped. They are reinforcing with larger ships. Our scouts report an incoming fleet within days." Valera nodded, her jaw tight. She had seen enough to know that the first encounter was only a small glimpse of the enemy's strength. Her empire was powerful, yes, but the enemy was relentless, organized, and ruthless. Even her massive fleet might not withstand a full-scale assault. Jaren, her human husband, stood beside her quietly. He had been watching the reports with calm concentration, his hands folded behind his back. He never raised his voice, never panicked. He simply studied the data, his mind working in ways that Valera could barely follow. "Have your fleet ready for immediate deployment," Valera said. "We cannot let them strike the capital unprepared." Jaren tilted his head slightly. "Your Majesty, may I speak freely?" Valera paused, then nodded. Speak. The enemy is strong, Jaren said, but we are not weak. Their strength lies in their numbers and aggression. Our strength lies in coordination and adaptation. If we can anticipate their moves, we can turn their advantage against them. Her generals exchanged uneasy glances. Coordination and adaptation were words, not weapons. But Valera sensed something deeper in his words, a clarity and confidence that went beyond diplomacy. One of the senior generals, a large alien with armored scales and sharp horns, muttered, "They are humans. They are soft. Strategy alone cannot stop weapons like theirs." Jaren turned to him calmly. "Strategy alone does not need to. We will not match them ship for ship. We will find their weaknesses and use them." Valera felt a strange shiver run through her. She had expected weakness, but instead she saw patience, intelligence, and determination. There was no arrogance, only quiet calculation. The next few days were tense. The enemy fleet advanced quickly, their ships glinting like dark stars against the void. Valera's generals scrambled to organize defenses. Soldiers trained relentlessly, weapons were repaired, and communication lines buzzed with constant updates. The human ambassador, however, remained calm, studying charts, scanning enemy data, and occasionally asking questions that unsettled the alien commanders. "Your ships are strong," he told them one morning, "but your supply lines are exposed. If the enemy cuts them, your fleet will stall." One general laughed nervously. "We are the Urindor Empire. No one can disrupt our fleets." Jaren only smiled faintly. "The universe does not care about pride. It only cares about preparation." Valera watched quietly. She was beginning to understand that humans thought differently. They did not rely on raw power. They studied, predicted, and adapted. Perhaps their strength was not in fighting, but in surviving and responding to danger. When the enemy arrived, the real test began. The sky above Urindor darkened as massive alien ships approached from the edge of the system. The enemy had learned from their first defeat. They were more careful, more coordinated. Explosions lit the void as missiles streaked across space, striking at the edges of Valera's defenses. The alien fleet responded with fury, but Valera noticed a pattern. The enemy was aggressive but predictable. Their attacks focused on large formations, leaving smaller units exposed. Valera felt a pang of worry. She had always believed in overwhelming strength, but now she saw that numbers alone could be a trap. Jaren stood beside her, calm as ever. "Observe," he said quietly. "Do not rush, let them make the first move fully. Their patterns will reveal themselves." Valera hesitated. It was difficult to stay still while her ships were under fire, but she watched. Slowly, she began to see what Jaren meant. The enemy's aggression created gaps, mistakes, openings for clever attacks. By midday, the human ambassador made his first real suggestion for action. "If we redirect the smaller units to cut their supply ships, we can weaken them without risking the main fleet. Their formation will fall apart if their resources are interrupted." The generals scoffed. "You expect us to send small groups to fight large enemy fleets? They will be destroyed." Jaren remained calm. "Better to risk a few than to lose everything." Valera felt a flicker of trust. She gave a small nod. "Do it!" The alien fleet hesitated at first, but Jaren's plan was executed. Small human-guided units moved with precision, intercepting supply convoys and cutting communications. The enemy fleet, large and confident, began to falter. Missiles were misfired, ships collided in panic, and the aggression that had seemed unstoppable moments ago became chaotic. The Queen's advisors were stunned. One muttered, How did a human come up with this?" Valera remained silent, watching Jaren's calm demeanor. He did not celebrate, he did not gloat. He only observed, adjusted, and guided. The battle raged for hours. The enemy launched repeated assaults, but every time Jaren's strategies worked. Urindor's fleet held, smaller units outmaneuvering larger enemies, cutting lines of attack and forcing retreats. At one point, Valera saw an enemy commander send a direct attack at the capital's surface defenses. Panic spread among the generals. "We cannot hold them," one shouted. Jaren raised his hand. "Not yet," he said simply. "Watch." He instructed smaller ships to intercept the incoming attack, predicting the enemy's path. His calculations were perfect. The attack was diverted and the capital remained safe. Valera could hardly believe what she had witnessed. When the smoke cleared, the enemy fleet retreated. They had suffered losses far beyond their first encounter, not from raw force, but from clever tactics and careful planning. Valera turned to Jaren. You saved the city, she said, awe and disbelief in her voice. He only smiled faintly. We survived, Your Majesty, that is all. That night, Valera could not sleep. She walked through the gardens, thinking about what had happened. The human she had married, quiet, calm, and seemingly ordinary, had just changed the course of her empire's defense. Her mind raced. Could this really be one man's ability? How could a species that seemed so weak wield such strength? Her advisors had underestimated him. Her generals had underestimated him, and she had almost done the same. Jaren found her in the garden. You are troubled, he said softly. Valera nodded. I did not expect you to be so capable, he shrugged. Capability is not always obvious. Humans survive by thinking, by understanding, by adapting. Strength is not always measured in size or weapons. Sometimes it is measured in patience, timing, and perception. Valera studied him, realizing that the galaxy had judged humans too quickly. They had assumed weakness, not understanding that strength could be quiet, hidden, and utterly decisive. I underestimated you, she admitted, almost in a whisper. You did not understand, Jaren said, and that is fine, most of the galaxy still does not. But strength does not seek attention, it only acts when necessary. Valera felt a chill of realization. The human she had married, the one she had thought of as calm and gentle, was not what he appeared to be. His mind, his patience, and his strategy were a power few could match. And if this was only the beginning, the enemy had returned for one battle. But what if they came again, with greater numbers and more ferocity? The human had revealed a strength that was not yet fully seen, and Valera knew that the galaxy had no idea what humans could truly do. She looked at Jaren, standing quietly in the moonlight, and realized that she had married not a weak creature but a force unlike any other. And in that quiet moment, she felt a mixture of respect, admiration, and fear. The galaxy believed humans were fragile. They had no idea. But soon they would learn. The morning after the battle, the capital of Urindor was quiet but tense. Smoke still lingered in the skies, and repairs were underway across the fleet and orbital stations. Queen Valera walked along the corridors of the command tower, her mind filled with the events of the previous day. Every move of the human ambassador replayed in her thoughts. He had been calm while her fleet and generals panicked. He had predicted the enemy's moves with precision and countered them in ways the aliens could barely understand. Valera had seen it. The galaxy believed humans weak, fragile, and soft, but she now knew that Jaren's strength was unlike anything she had ever imagined. Her advisors approached, whispering anxiously. Your Majesty, said one, the enemy will return. They have suffered losses, yes, but they are relentless. What will we do? Valera turned her gaze toward the viewport, where the distant stars shimmered cold and silent. We follow the human, she said softly. He knows what to do. Her advisors were shocked. The human, Your Majesty, he is not a warrior. How can he lead? Valera's eyes narrowed. He is more than a warrior. He is a strategist. Trust him. Jaren had been studying the battlefield reports all night. He had calculated supply lines, fleet positions, and enemy behavior. His mind worked quickly and clearly, connecting patterns that Valera's seasoned generals had missed. When he finally entered the strategy chamber, he spoke with calm authority. Your Majesty, the enemy believes their strength lies in overwhelming numbers. They do not understand coordination, adaptability, or timing. We will use these advantages, but we must act quickly. They will strike again before we are ready. The generals exchanged uneasy looks. They had fought in countless battles, commanded legions, and survived wars across multiple star systems. And yet this human, small in stature and quiet in demeanor, commanded attention and respect with nothing but logic and clarity. Explain, said Valera. Jaren gestured to the tactical displays. We will not match them directly. We will use speed, precision, and control. Smaller units will strike first, disrupting their supply lines. We will force their large ships into confusion and make them fight each other. And when the opportunity comes, we strike decisively at their command vessels. One general scoffed. This is risky if we fail. Jaren shook his head calmly. We will not fail, but we must act with discipline and patience. Fear and pride will destroy us faster than their weapons ever could. Valera felt a mixture of awe and worry. The human's plan was bold, unlike anything her empire had attempted before. And yet it made sense. It was clever, precise, and adaptable, the very things the enemy could not predict. Hours later, the enemy fleet appeared again, larger and more organized than before. Explosions erupted in the void as ships clashed. The alien fleet responded with force, but chaos began almost immediately. The human units, guided by Jaren's careful planning, moved with perfect coordination. Small squadrons intercepted supply lines, cutting the enemy's fuel and communication channels. Enemy ships, unable to adjust quickly, collided or fired at empty space. Valera watched in disbelief as entire squadrons of the enemy faltered, losing cohesion and direction. "This is impossible," one general whispered. "How does he see so far ahead?" Jaren remained calm. "I am not seeing far ahead. I'm observing patterns and predicting outcomes. Humans survive by learning, adapting, and acting decisively when it matters." Valera's chest swelled with pride and a hint of fear. The human she had married, whom she had assumed weak, was revealing power in ways the galaxy could not imagine. It was not brute strength or giant weapons. It was intelligence, timing, and perfect execution. As the battle continued, the enemy launched their most dangerous attack yet, a direct strike at the capital's orbital defenses. Panic spread among the generals. Missiles streaked toward Urindor, faster and more numerous than before. Valera's heart pounded. "We cannot hold them," a senior officer cried. Jaren stepped forward. "Observe," he said softly. "Do not act rashly. Timing is everything." He directed smaller ships to intercept the incoming missiles. With precision, they disrupted the trajectories, forcing enemy fire off course. At the same time, other units flanked the enemy command vessels, cutting their communications and isolating them. Valera could hardly believe what she saw. The enemy, confident in their raw power, stumbled in confusion. Their massive fleet was no longer unified. Ships collided, fired at each other, and retreated. "Remarkable," Valera whispered. "All without a single large assault from our main fleet." Jaren nodded calmly. "Strength is not always obvious, Your Majesty. Sometimes it lies in patience, observation, and knowing when to act." By the time the battle ended, the enemy fleet had retreated once more, badly damaged and confused. Urindor's fleet had suffered few losses thanks to Jaren's strategy. The alien generals were speechless. Valera approached him after the battle. You saved the Empire," she said, awe in her voice. He smiled faintly. "We survived, Your Majesty, that is all." "But your strength," Valera hesitated. "It is unlike anything I have seen." "How?" Jaren shrugged. "Humans survive by thinking, by understanding, and by adapting. We do not need to display power to have it. Strength is quiet until it must act." Valera realized that this human, her husband, was teaching her a lesson she had never expected. Power was not always measured by force, size, or weapons. It could be hidden, subtle, and unstoppable when revealed at the right moment. The following days were filled with planning and preparation. Jaren studied enemy movements and predicted their likely next attacks. The alien generals, initially skeptical, began to see the wisdom in his approach. Valera observed quietly, learning. She realized that she had underestimated not only her husband, but also humanity itself. The galaxy had long mocked humans, thinking them weak and insignificant. But she now understood that human strength was not obvious, and the universe had misjudged them completely. One evening, as they walked in the gardens, Valera asked softly, "Why did you hide your abilities for so long?" Jaren looked at her, his calm expression steady. "Strength is not meant to be flaunted, Your Majesty. Humans do not seek to dominate. We protect, endure, and act when necessary. The galaxy judges by appearances, but real power lies in action, not display." Valera nodded slowly. "I see that now, and I respect you more than I can say." Jaren smiled gently. "Respect is earned, not demanded. And strength, when revealed at the right time, speaks for itself." As night fell over Urindor, the twin suns finally gone below the horizon, Valera stood on her balcony, watching the stars. The human she had married, whom she had thought fragile, had revealed a strength that few species could match. The enemy had returned, expecting easy victory, and they had been met not with brute force, but with intelligence, strategy, and patience. The galaxy believed humans weak. They had no idea what they were capable of. Valera turned to Jaren, who stood silently beside her. She realized that the coming battles would be different. She realized that the Empire was not only safe, it was strong because of him. And she knew, deep in her heart, that soon the galaxy would witness a human power unlike anything it had ever imagined. For the first time, Queen Valera felt truly certain of one thing: she had not married weakness. She had married strength. And that strength was only beginning to reveal itself. The stars above Urindor seemed colder than ever. The capital's fleet was ready, but tension hung thick in the air. Reports had arrived from distant scanners. The enemy was returning with their full might. Their ships were larger, faster, and more numerous than ever. The previous battles had slowed them, but now they were relentless, and the threat could no longer be ignored. Queen Valera stood in the command chamber, her eyes sharp, observing the preparation. Her generals were in motion, issuing orders, calibrating weapons, and bolstering shields. The capital world's surface was alive with activity, workers, soldiers, and engineers moving as one. But Valera's attention was on Jaren, her human husband, who stood quietly beside her. He had not slept much in the past days. His focus was absolute. He had studied every fleet pattern, every weapon system, and every possible strategy the enemy could use. And he had a plan, one that the galaxy had never seen because it relied on human thinking, subtle and precise. "The enemy knows we survived," Jaren said quietly, "and they will come stronger. But they do not understand one thing: humans fight differently. We adapt, we anticipate, and we act when it matters most." Valera studied him. His calm eyes reflected no fear, only clarity. She had seen hints of this strength before, small victories, clever maneuvers. But now she felt it fully. The quiet human she had married could change the fate of her entire empire. The first wave of the enemy fleet arrived without warning. Massive ships moved with deadly precision, targeting key points in Urindor's defenses. Missiles streaked across the void, their paths calculated and merciless. Alien generals shouted orders, attempting to organize a defense, but chaos threatened to overwhelm them. Valera's heart pounded. She had commanded armies before, fought alongside the fiercest warriors, but nothing prepared her for this moment. She glanced at Jaren, expecting hesitation. Instead, he raised his hand calmly and began issuing his own commands. Smaller units flank the enemy command vessels, intercept their supply lines and cut communications. Main fleet maintain position and observe. Timing is everything. The generals froze. They had never heard such orders from a human, and yet slowly they began to obey. Ships moved like a single organism, coordinated and precise. Valera watched in awe as the enemy fleet advanced, confident in their power. But Jaren's plan unfolded flawlessly. Small human-led units struck first, targeting enemy fuel lines and communication relays. Enemy ships became confused, misfiring at each other or retreating into empty space. This is impossible," one general whispered. "How can he see so far ahead?" "He is not seeing far," Jaren said softly. "He is predicting outcomes based on patterns." Humans survive by understanding, adapting, and acting decisively when it matters. The battle intensified. The enemy sent massive volleys toward the capital, aiming to destroy the command center and break morale. Valera watched, her breath catching as explosions lit the sky. Shields flared and warning sirens rang. Then Jaren acted. He moved faster than anyone expected, not physically but strategically. He shifted fleets, intercepted attacks, and redirected enemy fire with perfect timing. Smaller units moved into positions that alien generals had not imagined, cutting off escape routes and isolating enemy commanders. Valera could hardly believe what she saw. Ships that should have been destroyed were unharmed. Enemy formations that seemed unstoppable fell apart. And through it all, Jaren remained calm, observing every move, predicting every reaction. At one point, an enemy warship targeted the central city on Urindor. Panic swept through the command chamber. "We cannot stop it," shouted a senior officer. Jaren's eyes narrowed. "Yes, we can," he said simply. "Divert the smaller units to intercept. Use timing, not force. Force only destroys. Timing controls." Valera held her breath as the human-led squads moved at lightning precision. Missiles were intercepted, energy beams diverted, and the warship's path altered. The city remained safe. Valera realized in shock that the human she had married had just saved her entire capital, not with strength but with intelligence. Hours passed. The enemy fleet grew frustrated and aggressive. They attempted reckless maneuvers, hoping to overwhelm Urindor's defenses with sheer size. But Jaren anticipated every move. He directed the fleet in ways that forced enemy ships to collide, fire at empty space, and retreat. Valera felt a surge of admiration. She had never seen such a display of strategy. The human had no weapons larger than her own ships, no armies greater than her legions. and yet he was dominating the battlefield. It was a kind of strength the galaxy had never witnessed, quiet, precise, unstoppable when revealed at the right moment. Finally, the enemy commander attempted a desperate strike against Jaren himself. A massive ship moved toward the human's command vessel, firing everything it had. Valera's heart skipped a beat. Jaren did not flinch. He calmly observed the trajectory, calculated the timing, and issued precise orders. Smaller units intercepted the attack, and the enemy ship was forced off course, retreating in confusion. Valera could hardly believe it. The human she had married, whom she had assumed weak, had just countered a direct assault with nothing but strategy, observation, and perfect timing. When the battle ended, the enemy fleet had been decisively beaten. Their ships retreated in disarray, many destroyed, others confused and directionless. Urindor's fleet had suffered minimal losses, all thanks to the quiet strength of one human. Valera stood silently in the command chamber, staring at Jaren. Her mind raced with awe, respect, and disbelief. She had married a human to secure peace, thinking him fragile. Instead, he had revealed a strength that no alien in the galaxy could have imagined. "You," she said softly, almost whispering, "you are not what I thought." "You are more." Jaren turned to her calm and composed. "Humans are often misunderstood, Your Majesty. Our strength is quiet. We do not seek to dominate. We observe, we learn, and we act when necessary. The galaxy judges by appearances, but true strength is revealed in action." Valera nodded slowly. "And I misjudged you. I misjudged your species. I thought humans weak, but I see now you are not weak. You are extraordinary." Jaren smiled faintly. "Strength is not in size or weapons. It is in patience, intelligence, and timing. Humans survive because we act when it matters most." That night, Valera walked in the gardens, the stars shining cold above Urindor. She could still feel the battle in her chest, the fear, the tension, the awe. And she realized that her empire was safe not because of its sheer size or firepower, but because of the human she had married. She found Jaren sitting quietly near a fountain, watching the stars. "You saved us all," she said. He looked at her calmly. "We survived, Your Majesty." "That is all?" "No," Valera said firmly. "You did more than survive. You revealed a strength the galaxy does not know humans possess. You are incredible." Jaren's eyes were gentle. "Strength is not measured by what others see. It is revealed when needed. That is how humans endure. That is how we protect what matters." Valera felt a chill of realization. She had underestimated him, underestimated humanity, and underestimated the true nature of power. She had married not weakness, but a force the galaxy could not comprehend. And she knew without doubt that the coming days would show even more. The human strength she had witnessed was only the beginning. The twin suns would rise again, and with them, a new understanding would spread across the empire. The galaxy had judged humans by appearances. Now the truth had been revealed, and it was extraordinary. The morning after the decisive battle, the capital world of Urindor was quiet, almost peaceful. For the first time in days, the twin suns rose without the dark shadow of enemy fleets looming above. Ships repaired and replenished, soldiers rested, and the people of the empire began to breathe easier. Queen Valera stood on her balcony, watching the city below. Smoke had cleared from the streets, and life was returning to its normal rhythm. Yet in her mind, nothing felt normal. The battles had revealed something she had never fully understood. The human she had married, quiet, calm, and seemingly ordinary, was extraordinary. Jaren approached her silently. He had spent the night reviewing reports, coordinating remaining defenses, and ensuring that every system was secure. Despite everything, his expression was calm, almost serene. "You have changed the course of our empire," Valera said softly, her voice carrying a mixture of awe and respect. "You have saved us all." Jaren shook his head. "We survived, Your Majesty. That is all humans seek, to survive, to protect, and to act when necessary." Valera studied him carefully. She realized that he had done more than save the empire. He had taught her a lesson the galaxy had yet to learn. True strength was not always visible, and it was not always loud. The advisors and generals approached, their expressions a mix of relief and reverence. They had witnessed the human's strategies firsthand, and even the most skeptical could not deny his brilliance. "Your Majesty," one general began, "the human, he saved countless lives. Entire squadrons would have been lost if not for him. He is extraordinary." Valera nodded. "Yes," she said quietly, He is extraordinary, and it is time the Empire understands that strength is not always measured by size or firepower. Sometimes it lies in wisdom, patience, and precise action. The human ambassador, Jaren, remained modest. Strength is revealed when it matters, he said. Humans survive not because we seek dominance, but because we adapt and protect. That is all. In the following days, Valera began to see the ripple effects of the human's strength across the Empire. Her generals started to study his methods, incorporating his strategies into fleet training and defensive planning. Alien officers, once arrogant and dismissive, now sought his guidance. Valera walked among them one afternoon, observing quietly. Soldiers practiced maneuvers, fleet coordinators worked with precision, and engineers optimized their systems based on Jaren's suggestions. The entire empire seemed to operate more efficiently, more confidently. She realized something profound. The human had not just saved the empire, he had transformed it. He had introduced a new way of thinking, a new approach to power and survival. The galaxy had underestimated humans, and the consequences of that underestimation were now clear. Meanwhile, news of Urendor's survival spread across nearby systems. Neighboring civilizations, once dismissive of humanity, began to reconsider their judgments. Ambassadors arrived, seeking alliances with humans and their allies. The reputation of humans as clever, strategic, and resilient spread faster than any fleet could travel. Valera watched these developments with a mix of pride and astonishment. Her human husband had done more than she could have imagined. He had preserved her empire, protected her people, and elevated humanity's standing in the galaxy, all without displaying overwhelming force or dominance. One evening, Valera found herself alone with Jaren in the palace gardens. The twin suns had set, and the soft glow of luminescent plants lit the path before them. She turned to him, her eyes reflecting both gratitude and curiosity. "Jaren," she said softly, "why did you do this? Why not show your strength before? You could have avoided danger entirely if you had revealed it sooner." Jaren looked at her calmly. "Strength is not for display, Your Majesty. Humans survive by observing, learning, and acting when necessary. Revealing power too soon can create fear or arrogance. True strength is quiet until it must be used." Valera nodded slowly, understanding. "And now the galaxy has seen only a part of it. They still underestimate humans." He smiled faintly. "Perhaps, but they will learn in time. Strength is most meaningful when it protects and endures." The following weeks brought peace, but not complacency. Jaren continued to advise Valera on defensive measures, fleet strategies, and political negotiations. The Empire had survived, but the lessons of the battle lingered. Every officer, soldier, and citizen began to appreciate the subtle power humans possessed, the power of intelligence, adaptability, and calm in the face of chaos. Valera observed this transformation with quiet pride. She realized that she had not only married a human for political alliance, she had married someone who had the ability to change the course of the galaxy. One afternoon, Valera called a council meeting. Ambassadors, generals, and advisors gathered in the grand hall. She spoke with clarity and authority. "Today," she said, "we celebrate not only our survival but a new understanding. The galaxy has judged humans incorrectly for centuries. They are not weak. They are strong not through force alone, but through intelligence, patience, and courage, and our empire is stronger because of them." Jaren remained by her side, silent and composed. The council members looked around, amazed. Some bowed deeply. Others whispered among themselves, finally recognizing the truth that Valera had spoken. News of the alien queen's declaration spread across star systems. Humans, once dismissed as fragile and insignificant, were now seen in a new light. Trade, diplomacy, and even future alliances shifted as civilizations reevaluated their perception of humanity. Valera often reflected on the human she had married. She remembered the calm in his eyes during battle, his quiet confidence, and the precise strategies that had saved millions. She had thought him ordinary. Now she knew he was extraordinary. One evening, as they walked together in the palace gardens, Valera spoke again. "Jaren, I misjudged you. I misjudged humanity. I thought strength was measured by force and size. I see now that true power lies in patience, intelligence, and the courage to act at the right moment." Jaren looked at her calmly. "Your Majesty, humans do not seek to dominate. We protect, endure, and act when needed. That is our strength. That is why your empire stands today." Valera smiled, a mixture of admiration and respect shining in her eyes. Then I am honored to stand beside you, not as a ruler over you, but as one who recognizes your strength and the strength of your people. Together, we are stronger than any enemy could imagine. As months passed, the empire flourished. Trade resumed, fleets trained with new strategies, and neighboring civilizations sought alliances with humans. Valera watched as humanity's reputation grew, a quiet but unstoppable force in the galaxy. She often reflected on the battles, the enemy, and the human she had married. The galaxy had expected humans to be weak. They had been wrong. Humans did not need to display power to wield it effectively. Their strength was patience, intelligence, adaptability, and courage. Valera realized she had married not a fragile ally, but a being whose power could shape the destiny of her empire and the galaxy itself. And in the quiet of the night, watching the stars with Jaren beside her, she felt something new: hope. Hope that humanity, underestimated for so long, would continue to endure, to protect, and to reveal its strength when it truly mattered. The twin suns would rise again over Erendor, and with them, a new era had begun. An era where humans were no longer underestimated. An era where the galaxy would learn, slowly but surely, that human strength was quiet, hidden, and unstoppable. And an era where the alien queen, once doubtful, would always stand beside her human husband, not as a ruler over him, but as a partner who had witnessed the full measure of human power and courage.